The darkness of space tore apart like old cloth. From the rip came ships, thousands of them. Each one was bigger than a city. Each one carried Death. Supreme War Admiral Kextar stood on the bridge of his flagship. His four eyes watched the blue-green planet far ahead. Earth. Another world to conquer. Another species to crush. He had done this 47 times before. It never got old. How long until we reach their world? Kextar asked his second-in-command. 7 days, my lord. Their primitive sensors have already spotted us. They are probably shaking with fear right now. Kextar made a sound like laughter. His species found fear amusing. They fed on it. For 300 years, the Vorthak Empire had swept across the galaxy. Every world they found, they took. Every species they met, they enslaved or killed. It was simple. It was efficient. It worked. The alien admiral looked at his fleet through the great windows of his ship. 10,000 warships stretched out like a metal forest. Each ship could destroy a moon. Together they could crack planets in half. No species had ever stood against them for more than a few hours. Send the message, Kextar ordered. The usual words. On Earth, Admiral Dongwoo Kim sat in his command center deep under the moon's surface. Luna Base was humanity's military heart. From here, he watched the stars for threats. Today, a big threat had found them. The alien message came through on all frequencies. The translation computers worked fast. Within minutes, Dongwoo could read their words in Korean and English. Primitive species of the third planet. You have 7 solar rotations to surrender without conditions. Bow before the Vorthak Empire or face complete destruction. Your world will burn. Your people will serve us or die. You cannot resist. You cannot hide. You cannot win. Around the command center, officers and technicians went quiet. They had trained for this day, but seeing it happen felt different. Real. Scary. Jin Park, the chief tactical officer, walked up to Dongwoo's chair. She was young but smart, very smart. Her fingers danced over computer screens as she studied the alien fleet. Sir, they have 10,000 ships. Each one is about 20 kilometers long. Their weapons look like plasma cannons and fusion missiles. Old technology, but they have a lot of it. Tae-Min Lee, the head of computer warfare, joined them. His screens showed streams of alien data. I'm reading their communications, sir. They think we're helpless. They're already deciding which humans to keep as slaves. Sora Choi, the director of new weapons, smiled a cold smile. Let them think that. It will make this easier. Dongwoo stood up. He was not a tall man, but his presence filled the room. Every person in the command center looked at him. They waited for his orders. Open a channel to the alien fleet, he said. All frequencies. Channel open, sir. Dongwoo spoke clearly. His words would travel across space to the alien ships. This is Admiral Kim of Earth's Defense Force. You have 72 hours to leave our solar system. Turn your ships around and go home. This is your only warning. The channel closed. The command center stayed quiet for several seconds. Then someone started laughing, then someone else. Soon the whole room was filled with laughter. Not the scared kind. The other kind. The dangerous kind. On the alien flagship. Kextar stared at his communication officer. What did they say? They told us to leave, my lord. They gave us a warning. Kextar's 4 eyes turned bright red with anger. In 300 years, no primitive species had ever dared to speak to him like that. They begged, they cried. They offered him their treasures and their children. They never gave him warnings. How many ships do they have? He asked. Our scouts count maybe 300 vessels, my lord. Small ones. They look like metal toys compared to our ships. 300 toys against 10,000 warships. Kextar's anger turned into amusement again. I will enjoy breaking these humans. Set course for their world. Full speed. Back on Luna Base, Dongwoo watched the alien fleet start moving toward Earth. Their ships were fast. In 7 days, they would reach human space. In 8 days, they would be at Earth's doorstep. Sir, Heejin said, should we evacuate the cities? Move people to the deep shelters? Dongwu shook his head. No need. This will be over long before they reach Earth. Taemin looked confused. Sir, they have 10,000 ships. We only have a few hundred in the outer system. Numbers don't always win battles, Sora said. Sometimes technology does. Sometimes experience does. She walked to a big screen that showed the solar system. Small dots marked human ships near Neptune, Uranus, and Saturn. Bigger dots showed the alien fleet moving past the edge of known space. The aliens think they know everything. About space warfare, Sora continued. They've conquered 47 worlds. They believe their way is the only way. They think bigger always means stronger. Dongwu nodded. They're about to learn something new. He turned to address the whole command center. Every person stopped what they were doing to listen. For 50 years we've prepared for this day. We've built weapons they can't imagine. We've learned from every war in human history. We've studied every mistake our enemies might make. He paused, looking at each face in the room. These aliens think humans are primitive. They think we're weak. They think we'll break easily. His voice got harder. They're wrong about everything. The command center erupted in cheers. Fists pounded on desks. People hugged each other. Fear had left the room. In its place came something else. Something that had won every important war in human history. Confidence. He-Jin, signal our ships near Neptune. Tell Captain Nam to prepare for contact. Yes, sir. Taemin, start monitoring all alien communications. I want to know what they're thinking every step of the way. Already on it, sir. Sora, are our special weapons ready? They've been ready for 20 years, sir. Just waiting for targets. Dongwu sat back down in his command chair. On the main screen, the alien fleet looked like a swarm of angry insects. 10,000 ships carrying millions of alien warriors. All of them certain they would win easily. In 3 days, they'll meet our first defense line, he said quietly. Captain Nam has 200 ships. The aliens probably think it will be a massacre. Won't it be? Asked a young technician. So-Ra answered before Dongwu could speak. Oh yes, it will definitely be a massacre. The way she said it made everyone in the room smile. Outside Luna Base, Earth turned slowly in space. Cities glowed with lights. People lived their normal lives. Children played in parks. Adults worked in offices. Farmers tended their crops. None of them knew that 10,000 alien warships were racing toward their world. But deep under the moon's surface, their protectors watched and waited. They had spent decades preparing for this moment. The aliens thought they were bringing death to a defenseless world. Instead, they were flying straight into humanity's trap. The hunt was about to begin. Dr. Yunho Bae walked into the Global Defense Council meeting room, carrying a thick folder. The room was deep under Geneva, hidden from the world above. Representatives from every nation sat around a huge table, their faces serious and worried. Dr. Bae, said the American representative, we need to understand what just happened near Neptune. How did 200 of our ships destroy 2,000 alien vessels without taking any damage? Yunho placed his folder on the table and looked around the room. These people controlled Earth's governments. They made decisions that affected billions of lives, but they knew almost nothing about humanity's real military power. Before I answer that question, Yunho said, I need to tell you about the last 60 years of human history. The real history, not the one your people know about. The Russian representative frowned. What do you mean, the real history? Yunho opened his folder and pulled out a photograph. It showed a strange device in what looked like an underground laboratory. The device was covered in cables and glowing panels. This picture was taken in 1965. That machine is humanity's first faster-than-light communication device. We built it 3 years before we supposedly put the first man on the moon. Shocked silence filled the room. The Japanese representative leaned forward. That's impossible. We barely had computers in 1965. You barely had computers, Yunho corrected. We had quantum processors. We had artificial intelligence. We had technology that could fold space and manipulate time. He pulled out more photographs. Underground cities. Massive factories hidden beneath mountains. Weapons that looked like they belonged in science fiction movies. In 1947, we found something in the New Mexico desert. Not alien technology, as some people guessed. Something much more interesting. We found a way to make the universe do what we wanted instead of what physics said was possible. The British representative shook her head. This is madness. If we had such technology, why hide it? Why pretend to struggle with spaceflight? Because we needed time to develop it properly, and we needed to understand what was out there waiting for us. Yunho walked to a large screen on the wall. With a touch, it showed a map of the galaxy. Thousands of red dots marked alien civilizations. We've been watching the galaxy for decades. We know about every alien empire, every war, every conquered world. We know about species that eat planets and creatures that swim through stars. The dots on the screen began moving, showing the expansion of various alien empires over time. One empire, marked in darker red, had grown larger than all the others. The Vorthak Empire has destroyed 47 civilizations. They don't just conquer worlds, they erase entire species from existence. When they finish with a planet, nothing is left alive, not even bacteria. The Chinese representative stood up. If you knew about this threat, why didn't you warn us? Why didn't you prepare our armies? We did prepare, just not in the way you think. Another touch on the screen showed Earth's solar system. But this wasn't the solar system that appeared in textbooks. This version was filled with structures, massive installations around every planet, weapon platforms floating in the asteroid belt, defense stations hidden inside comets. While your nations worried about oil and territory, we built the most advanced military force in galactic history. Every human space mission was actually a construction project. Every satellite we launched was actually a weapons platform. The room exploded in arguments. Representatives shouted at each other in different languages. Some demanded proof. Others accused their own governments of betrayal. Yun-Ho waited for the noise to die down. When the room was quiet again, he continued his explanation. Chief Engineer, Yunji Huang will now explain our weapon systems. Yunji stepped forward. She was a small woman with gentle eyes, but her voice carried absolute confidence. Our basic infantry weapon can disintegrate matter at the quantum level. Our naval vessels carry gravity manipulators that can collapse stars. Our defensive systems include time barriers that age incoming missiles to dust before they arrive. She gestured to the screen, which now showed technical diagrams. The weapons we used against the Vorthak Advance Force were kinetic accelerators. They fire microscopic particles at near light speed. Each particle carries enough energy to destroy a city. We have much more powerful weapons in reserve. The German representative raised his hand. How much more powerful? Well, we have vacuum decay catalysts. They unravel the forces that hold atoms together. Anything hit by one simply stops existing at the most basic level. And beyond that? Timeline erasers. They remove targets from history, not just destroyed, but never having existed at all. We also have dimensional displacement weapons that move enemy fleets to universes where they can't survive. The room fell silent again. These weren't just weapons. They were forces that could reshape reality itself. Meanwhile, in space near Jupiter, the remaining Vorthak fleet sat motionless. War Admiral Kekstar stared at reports from his scouts. The news got worse with each transmission. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, we've detected massive structures throughout this solar system. The humans have been building them for decades. What kind of structures? Weapon platforms, sir. Some are larger than our biggest ships. Others are hidden inside asteroids and moons. According to our scans, the planet Mars has been completely hollowed out and converted into some kind of fortress. Kekstar felt cold despite his ship's warm atmosphere. How many humans live in this system? About 10 billion on the main planet, sir. But our communications intercepts suggest most of them don't know about the military installations. They've been keeping their own people in the dark? Yes, sir. It appears their real military operates in complete secrecy. The space program their citizens know about is just a cover story. On his main screen, Kekstar watched long-range sensor data scroll past. Human ships were moving throughout the solar system, but they weren't running away or preparing defenses. They were positioning themselves like hunters preparing to surround prey. Sir, we've also intercepted some of their military communications. Can you translate them? Yes, sir. They're discussing which weapons to use against us. They seem to be debating whether to make our destruction quick or to use it as a demonstration for other alien empires. Kekstar's hands shook as he gripped his command chair. In 300 years of conquest, he had never encountered a species that spoke about his empire like it was a pest to be removed. What about our reinforcements? No word yet, sir, but our communications with the home fleet have been interrupted. Interrupted how? The communication officer looked nervous. Every message we send is being modified somehow, sir. When we try to call for help, the messages that arrive at headquarters say we're doing fine and don't need assistance. The humans are intercepting our communications. Not just intercepting, sir. They're changing them. They know our language, our codes, even our personal identity confirmations. It's like they've been studying us for years. Back on Earth, Taemin Lee sat in his cyber warfare center, surrounded by screens showing alien data streams. His team had broken every Vorthak code within hours of first contact. Now they controlled the aliens' entire communication network. Sir, one of his technicians said, the Vorthak admiral is trying to contact their emperor directly. What does he want to say? He wants to request permission to retreat. He's realized they can't win this fight. Taemin smiled. Change the message. Make it say that Earth's defenses are weaker than expected, and they should definitely continue their attack. Isn't that dangerous? What if they actually believe it and keep coming? Oh, they'll keep coming, that's the point. We want them to see what humanity is really capable of. When word gets out to other alien empires, they'll think twice before bothering us. The technician made the changes and sent the altered message toward Vorthak space. In a few days, the alien emperor would receive a report saying his invasion was going perfectly. By then, there wouldn't be a Vorthak fleet left to contradict it. In the Geneva meeting room, the discussion continued. Representatives demanded to know what would happen next. The aliens have about 8,000 ships left, Dr. Yunho Bae explained. They're currently near Jupiter trying to decide what to do. Will they retreat? Asked the Brazilian representative. No, their pride won't. Let them. They'll continue toward Earth hoping to overwhelm us with numbers. And then they'll discover that this was never really a war. It was always going to be a demonstration. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity isn't prey. We're the species that other species become when they grow up. The Italian representative looked confused. What does that mean? Yunji answered for him. It means we've been hiding in plain sight for decades, letting other species think we're primitive. But we're not the victims in this story. We're the apex predators. She touched the screen again. New images appeared, showing human installations throughout the galaxy, observation posts, research stations, hidden bases on planets that supposedly had never seen human visitors. We've been watching and waiting for someone to make the mistake of attacking Earth. The Vorthak Empire just volunteered to be our first public demonstration of human military power. Outside the hidden meeting room, the people of Earth continued their normal lives. 3 days later, Captain Jaewon Nam stood on the bridge of his destroyer, Seoul's Pride. Through the main window, he could see Neptune's blue surface far below. His ship and 199 others waited in formation around the ice, giant planet. Captain, the alien fleet is approaching, said Minna Song, his weapons officer. She was young and eager, like most of his crew. They'll be in firing range in 10 minutes. Jaewon nodded. How do they look, Minna? Confident, sir. They're not even trying to be sneaky, just flying straight at us in a big group. Navigator Hyunsu Kang laughed from his station. Why would they be sneaky? They think we're primitives flying around in tin cans. In a way, they're right, Jae-won said. Our ships do look small compared to theirs. Min-ah frowned. Captain, are you worried? Each of their ships is 100 times bigger than ours. Size isn't everything, Min-ah. A tiger is smaller than an elephant, but which one would you rather fight? On his command screen, Jae-won watched the alien fleet approach. 2,000 ships in the advance group. Each one was massive, covered in weapons and armor. They looked like flying cities made of metal and death. His own ships looked like toys next to them. Human destroyers were sleek and small. They reminded him of dolphins swimming next to whales, but dolphins were smart. Whales were just big. Sir, we're getting a message from the alien commander, his communication officer reported. Put it through. A harsh alien voice filled the bridge. The translation computer turned the words into Korean. Pathetic humans, you fly toward your doom. Our weapons will turn your ships into dust. Surrender now and we might let some of you live as our slaves. Jae-won opened a return channel. This is Captain Nam of the human vessel Soul's Pride. I have a message for you as well. He paused, making sure all the alien ships could hear him clearly. You should have stayed home. The channel closed. Around the bridge, his crew grinned at each other. They had trained for this moment their whole careers. Now it was time to show what humans could really do. Min-ah, charge all weapons systems. Weapons. Charging, sir. All systems show green. Hyunsu, how long until they're in optimal range? 2 minutes, Captain. Their plasma cannons have a maximum effective range of about 50,000 kilometers. Jae-won smiled. The aliens were still thinking. In old terms, range meant nothing when you had the right technology. On the alien flagship, War Admiral Kekstar watched the small human fleet with amusement. He had seen this before on dozens of worlds. The local species would send their best ships to make a brave last stand. It never worked. It never even slowed his forces down. How long to destroy them all? He asked his weapons master. 5 minutes, my lord. Maybe less. Their ships are so small our main guns might hit several at once. Good. Make it quick. I want to reach their home world on schedule. Yes, my lord, all ships prepare to fire. 2,000 alien weapons charged up. Plasma cannons that could melt mountains. Fusion missiles that could crack moons. Energy beams that had burned the atmosphere off entire worlds. Fire, Kekstar commanded. Space lit up like a new star being born. Thousands of energy beams and missiles flew toward the human fleet. Enough firepower to destroy a small planet reached out to swat the tiny human ships. The aliens expected to see explosions. They expected to see the human ships torn apart and scattered like leaves in a hurricane. They expected victory in seconds. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships just sat there. Every beam, every missile, every weapon hit their targets, but nothing happened. The human vessels absorbed the attack like it was nothing, more than warm sunlight. On Soul's Pride, Jae-won felt only a slight vibration as the alien weapon struck his shields. Damage report, he said calmly. No damage, sir. Shields absorbed everything. They're still at full strength. How is that possible? Min-ah whispered. They hit us with enough power to destroy a moon. Our shields don't work the way theirs do, Jae-won explained. They use simple energy barriers. We use controlled antimatter reactions. Their weapons actually make our shields stronger. On the alien ships, confusion spread like a disease. Officers stared at their screens in disbelief. Their sensors said they had scored direct hits on every human ship, but all the human vessels were still there, completely undamaged. Fire again, Kekstar roared. Maximum power, all weapons. The second attack was even more intense than the first. The aliens threw everything they had at the human fleet. Energy that could have boiled away Earth's oceans struck the small human ships. Again, nothing happened. The human vessels sat calmly in space, their shields glowing softly as they absorbed power that should have vaporized them. Impossible, Kekstar whispered. Nothing can survive that much firepower. My lord, his sensor officer said with a shaking voice. Their shields are actually getting stronger. Our attacks are feeding power to their defenses. On Soul's Pride, Jaewon turned to Minna. I think they've had enough chances. Your turn. Minna's fingers moved over her weapon controls. Human weapons were different from alien ones. Smaller, quieter, much, much more deadly. Target locked, Captain. Firing solution ready. What are you planning to hit them with? Yunsu asked. Just a grain of sand, Minna replied. A grain of sand? A grain of sand moving at 99.9% of light speed. She pressed the firing button. From Soul's Pride came a flash of light so brief it was almost invisible. What followed was not Dot. The grain of sand, accelerated to nearly the speed of light, hit the first alien ship. At that speed, it had more energy than a nuclear bomb. It punched through the alien vessel like it was made of paper. But it didn't stop there. The sand grain continued through the ship behind it, and the one behind that, and the next one. In a perfectly straight line, 17 alien dreadnoughts simply exploded, one after another like firecrackers going off in sequence. Each explosion was brief and brilliant, turning ships the size of cities into expanding clouds of hot gas. The other human ships opened fire at the same time. Grains of sand accelerated to impossible speeds carved through the alien fleet like invisible swords. Ships that had conquered worlds died in seconds. What are they using? Kextar demanded. Kinetic weapons, my lord, but moving faster than our sensors can track. Each projectile has the energy of a small star. In less than 5 minutes, the entire alien advance force was destroyed. 2,000 warships, reduced to glowing debris, the pride of the Vorthak Empire, scattered across space like cosmic dust. The surviving human ships regrouped in perfect formation. Not one had been damaged. Not one had even been scratched. Captain Jaewon opened a communication channel to the remaining alien fleet, still several hours away. This is Captain Nam again. I told you to go home, you didn't listen. That was your first lesson in human warfare. Would you like a second lesson? Or are you ready to learn? On the alien flagship, War Admiral Kextar stared at the debris cloud that had once been his advance fleet. For the first time in 300 years, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Fear. These humans had weapons that treated the laws of physics like suggestions. They had destroyed his best ships without even trying hard. And worst of all, they had done it while barely moving from their positions. My lord, his communication officer said quietly. What should we respond? Kextar looked at his remaining 8,000 ships, still a massive force, still enough to conquer most worlds. But suddenly, he wasn't sure it would be enough for Earth. Tell the fleet to stop advancing. Hold position. Should we retreat, my lord? Kextar's pride warred with his survival instincts. He had never retreated from any battle. His empire had never backed down from any fight. But he had also never faced weapons like these. No, not yet. Call for reinforcements from the nearest base, and send scouts to study these human weapons. I need to understand what we're fighting. But even as he gave the orders, Kextar knew something had changed. For 300 years, the Vorthak Empire had been the hunters. Every other species had been prey. Now, for the first time, he wondered if they had just become the prey themselves. Station Commander Eugene Park stood in the control center of what the Vorthak fleet believed was a small human defense outpost near Mars. Through the observation windows, she could see the red planet's familiar surface. What the aliens couldn't see was that Mars itself had been transformed into something extraordinary. Commander called her second officer. The alien fleet is approaching our position. 8,000 ships, moving in attack formation. Eugene nodded calmly. She had been waiting for this moment for 15 years. Open a communication channel to their flagship. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the alien command ship. War Admiral Kextar glared at her with his 4 red eyes. Behind him, she could see dozens of alien officers preparing for battle. Human commander, Kextar said in his harsh voice. You face the might of 8,000 warships. Surrender now and your death will be quick. Eugene smiled politely. Admiral, you are now entering the Mars Defense Zone. This is one of our smaller installations. I'm required to give you one final warning before we begin the demonstration. Demonstration? Kextar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You have one tiny station against my entire fleet. What could you possibly demonstrate except your own destruction? You'll see in a moment, Yujin replied. She gestured to her weapons coordinator. Wujin, please show our guests what we've built here. Weapons coordinator. Wujin Kim sat at a control panel that looked surprisingly simple, just a few buttons and screens. But those controls were connected to the most powerful weapon system ever created by any species in the galaxy. Beginning. Demonstration sequence, Wujin announced. Activating gravity pulse weapons. Outside the station, space itself began to bend. The fabric of reality twisted around a group of alien ships. 100 Vorthak dreadnoughts suddenly found themselves caught in a gravity field stronger than a black hole. The massive warships, each one capable of destroying planets, crumpled like paper balls in a giant's fist. Metal that could withstand the heat of stars folded and compressed until the ships became perfect spheres of superdense matter. The spheres hung in space for a moment, then simply vanished as the gravity field collapsed them beyond the point where matter could exist. On his flagship, Kextar watched in horror as 100 of his most powerful vessels disappeared in seconds. What did you do to them? That was a focused gravity pulse, Yujin explained cheerfully. We compressed them until they collapsed into quantum foam. Don't worry, it was probably painless. She turned to another officer. Inho, please. Activate the stellar engineering array. Chief Science Officer Inho Yoon worked at a different control panel. The screens around him showed complex equations and energy readings that would have amazed the galaxy's greatest scientists. Stellar. Array online, he reported, creating miniature stars for kinetic bombardment. Above Mars, the space around the human station began to glow. Points of light appeared in the darkness, growing brighter and hotter. Within seconds, they became tiny suns, each one containing the power of a real star compressed into a sphere, the size of a basketball. We're going to throw stars at you, Yujin told the alien admiral. I thought you should know in advance. The miniature stars launched toward the Vorthak fleet like glowing cannonballs. Each one moved at incredible speed, trailing fire and radiation. When they hit the alien ships, the results were spectacular. Each starball punched through multiple vessels before exploding in a blast of nuclear fire. Ships that had survived planetary bombardments were vaporized instantly. Others were torn apart by gravitational forces that no armor could resist. In minutes, another 1,000 alien ships were destroyed. Kex, tar, S remaining fleet scattered in panic. His officers shouted orders and warnings, but nothing they did could protect them from weapons that treated the laws of physics as suggestions. Impossible, Kextar whispered. No species can create and launch stars as weapons. We didn't create them, Yujin corrected. We just borrowed a little matter from your local sun and compressed it down to a more convenient size. Much easier than building them from scratch. She paused, then added with a friendly tone. Would you like to see our really impressive weapons? Or have you seen enough? This is impossible. You're just one small station. Yujin laughed. Admiral, I think there's been a misunderstanding. This isn't a station. On her command, lights began appearing across Mars's surface. Millions of lights arranged in geometric patterns that covered the entire planet. The red surface itself began to glow as massive energy systems activated deep beneath the ground. This is Mars, Yujin continued. We've been working on it for 40 years. The whole planet is now a weapons platform. The truth hit Kextar like a physical blow. The humans hadn't built a defense station near Mars. They had turned Mars into a weapon bigger than anything in galactic history. The entire planet is a gun. Not just a gun, Inho called from his control panel. It's a multi-dimensional weapon system capable of destroying entire star systems. We've been very thorough. As if to demonstrate, the surface of Mars opened in thousands of places. Weapon emplacements rose from hidden positions. Each one was larger than a Vorthak dreadnought. There were weapons designed to manipulate gravity, weapons that could age targets to death, weapons that fired concentrated pieces of black holes. We estimate this installation could defeat about 50,000 ships your size, Eugen said casually. You only brought 8,000. Well, 7,000 now. Around Mars, space began filling with more human vessels. Ships that seemed to appear from nowhere materialized around the alien fleet. Some looked normal, made of metal and composites. Others appeared to be constructed from crystallized energy. A few seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. Where did they all come from? Kextar demanded. They've always been here, explained Fleet Admiral Su-Young Lim, her voice coming from one of the new ships. Human stealth technology is quite advanced. We've been surrounding your fleet since you entered our solar system. Her ship, the Soul's Honor, was a work of art. Its hull seemed to be made of liquid starlight. Weapons ports opened along its sides, revealing cannons that glowed with impossible colors. Admiral Kextar, Su-Young continued, you have one final choice. Surrender unconditionally and face trial for your crimes against 47 civilizations, or continue your attack and discover what humanity considers aggressive measures. You're bluffing, Kextar snarled, but his voice shook with uncertainty. You can't have weapons more powerful than what you've already shown us. Oh, we absolutely can, Eugen assured him. What we've used so far are our basic defensive systems. Our offensive weapons are much more interesting. She gestured toward Mars, where new structures were rising from the planet's surface. These were different from the weapons platforms. They looked like vast rings made of some material that bent light around it. Those are timeline manipulators, she explained. They can remove your entire fleet from history, not just destroy you, but make it so you never existed in the first place. Your empire would forget it ever sent you here. And those? Kextar pointed at other structures that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Dimensional displacement cannons. They send targets to parallel universes where the laws of physics are different, usually to dimensions where matter can't exist. And that one? His voice was barely a whisper now. Jin looked at the largest structure, a ring that surrounded Mars' entire equator. That's our reality editor. It can rewrite the fundamental forces of the universe in a localized area. We could make your ships forget how to be solid, or convince space itself that your fleet is made of antimatter. The alien admiral stared at the impossible weapons surrounding his fleet. In 300 years of conquest, he had never imagined such technology could exist. His species had conquered galaxies with plasma cannons and fusion bombs. The humans had turned the universe itself into a weapon. This is madness, he whispered. How can any species develop such power? We had good teachers, Su-Young replied. We studied every war in galactic history. We learned from every species that was conquered or destroyed. We made sure we would never be victims. But why hide it? Why pretend to be primitive? Because the galaxy needed to think Earth was harmless, Eugen answered. We needed time to prepare, and we needed someone to volunteer for our first public demonstration of human military power. She smiled, and somehow that smile was more terrifying than all the weapons surrounding them. Congratulations, Admiral. Your empire has just volunteered to show the galaxy what happens when someone attacks humanity. On his bridge, Kextar looked at his remaining officers. Fear filled their eyes. They had come to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they had found the apex predators of the galaxy. My lord, his weapons officer said quietly, what are your orders? Kextar stared at the screens showing human weapons that could rewrite reality. His pride warred with his survival instincts. But deep down, he already knew what his decision would be. The Vorthak Empire had never retreated from any battle. Today. That tradition was going to get them all killed. War Admiral Kextar stood on his bridge, surrounded by the most advanced alien technology in the galaxy. His 7,000 remaining ships were armed with weapons that could crack planets and burn away atmospheres. He had conquered 47 worlds with less firepower than he commanded right now. But as he looked at the human weapons surrounding his fleet, he realized none of it mattered. The humans had turned physics itself into a weapon. They had made the universe their ally. Still, his pride would not let him surrender. The Vorthak Empire had never backed down from any fight. They would not start now, even facing impossible odds. All ships, he commanded. Prepare for final assault. Target the human installations around Mars. Use everything we have. His officers looked at him with fear and respect. They knew this was suicide, but they would follow their admiral into death rather than shame. Sir, his weapons master said quietly, should we try to contact the home fleet one more time? No. If we die here, let our deaths be a warning to the Empire. Let them know what humanity really is. Throughout the alien fleet, weapons charged to maximum power. Planet crackers armed their antimatter warheads. Stellar plasma cannons built up energy that could melt continents. Fusion bombs that could ignite atmospheres prepared to launch. On Luna base, Admiral Dongwoo Kim watched the alien fleet prepare for its final attack. Around him, his officers monitored human defensive systems throughout the solar system. Sir, Hyojin Park reported, the aliens are charging all weapons. Full power assault incoming. How much firepower are they bringing to bear? Enough to sterilize 3 or 4 Earth-sized planets, sir. If this was a conventional battle, they could probably destroy our entire civilization. Dongwoo nodded calmly. Good. I want their final attack to be impressive. When other alien empires hear about this battle, they need to understand that the Vorthak fleet died fighting with everything they had. Sora Choi looked up from her tactical display. Sir, are you authorizing the Prometheus Protocol? Yes. Full activation. Show the galaxy what human weapons can really do. Throughout the solar system, human installations received the authorization code. Systems that had been hidden for decades came online. Weapons that existed only in theoretical physics textbooks prepared to fire. On Mars, Station Commander Eugene Park received the signal. All stations, this is Mars Command. Prometheus Protocol is active. Prepare to demonstrate humanity's true military capability. The Vorthak fleet attacked with everything they possessed. 7,000 ships unleashed hell itself. Energy beams that could boil oceans reached out toward human positions. Antimatter, missiles that could crack moons flew through space trailing fire and destruction. The barrage lasted for 10 full minutes. Enough concentrated firepower to destroy entire star systems hammered the human defenses. The aliens threw 300 years of military technology at their enemies in one desperate final assault. When the attack ended, space around Mars glowed with residual energy. Debris from spent missiles drifted in all directions. The aliens had used weapons that could have conquered galaxies. The human response was immediate and absolute. Prometheus Protocol activated, Dongwoo said quietly. Begin the demonstration. What happened next wasn't a battle. It was a physics lesson. Captain Jaewon Nam, still commanding Seoul's Pride near Neptune, fired the first weapon. It looked like a simple energy beam, no different from thousands of others used in space warfare. But this beam didn't destroy the alien ships it hit. Instead, it edited them out of existence retroactively. The ships didn't explode or burn. They simply stopped having ever been built. One moment they were there, firing weapons and following orders. The next moment, they had never existed at all. 200 alien vessels vanished as if they had never been real. Engineer Yunji Huang activated the entropy redistributors from her command center on Luna base. These weapons didn't destroy their targets in the present. Instead, they redistributed the flow of time around enemy ships. 1,000 alien vessels aged millions of years in seconds. Their hulls corroded and crumbled. Their weapons decayed into useless scrap. Their crews turned to dust as time accelerated around them. Within moments, proud warships became ancient wrecks that fell apart and scattered into cosmic debris. Dr. Yunho Bae deployed the vacuum decay catalysts. These were humanity's most theoretical weapons, devices that could unravel the fundamental forces holding matter together. The targeted alien ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to be coherent matter. The strong nuclear force that held their atoms together stopped working in the space around them. Solid metal became loose collections of protons and neutrons. Within seconds, entire vessels dissolved into subatomic particles that scattered harmlessly into space. But the most terrifying weapon was saved for last. Fleet Admiral Su Young Lim activated the reality editor built into Mars itself. This device could rewrite the basic laws of physics in a localized area of space, targeting the remaining alien fleet, she announced, redefining local space-time to classify all Vorthak vessels as antimatter. The universe itself turned against the remaining alien ships. Space decided that the Vorthak fleet was made of antimatter, while the normal matter around them remained unchanged. The ships began reacting violently with the vacuum of space itself, annihilating themselves in brilliant flashes of pure energy. In less than 18 minutes, the entire Vorthak invasion force was destroyed. Not just defeated or scattered, completely annihilated. Some ships were erased from history, others were aged to death. Still others were dissolved at the quantum level. Nothing remained of the mighty Vorthak fleet, except expanding clouds of elementary particles and a few brief, gravitational waves where massive ships had once existed. On his flagship's bridge, War Admiral Kekstar had just enough time to realize what was happening before his ship was caught in a causality loop. The last thing he saw was his own weapons firing backwards through time, destroying his vessel before the battle had even begun. From Luna Base, Admiral Dongwoo Kim composed a message. It would be transmitted to every alien civilization within 1,000 light-years. Every empire, every species, every potential threat would receive humanity's first official communication with the galaxy. To all civilizations currently monitoring this star system, he began. You have just witnessed the destruction of the Vorthak Empire's invasion fleet. 10,000 ships entered our solar system with the intention of conquering Earth. None survived to report their failure. This message serves as humanity's formal introduction to galactic civilization. For the past century, your species have lived in a galaxy where humans appeared to be primitive inhabitants of a single world. This was a convenient fiction that we maintained while we studied you and prepared for inevitable contact. Earth is not a target for conquest. It is a preserve that we maintain for our own cultural reasons. The humans you may have observed struggling with basic space travel represent our civilian population. They are unaware of our true technological capabilities, and we prefer to keep it that way. We have been observing galactic civilization for decades. We know the location of every world, every fleet, every weapon in your possession. We have infiltrated your communication networks, studied your military tactics, and cataloged your weaknesses. This is not a threat. It is simply information. The Vorthak Empire has been classified as a malignant growth requiring immediate treatment. You have 48 hours to begin dismantling your military forces and releasing all enslaved civilizations. Failure to comply will result in the relocation of your home star to a more convenient position, specifically inside your planet's core. To other species considering aggressive action toward Earth or human interests, the weapons you just witnessed represent our basic defensive systems. Our offensive capabilities are significantly more comprehensive. We can erase star systems from the timeline. We can convince matter to forget how to exist. We can rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas to make your technology impossible. But we are not unreasonable. Species that demonstrate peaceful intentions will find humans to be valuable allies. We have technologies that can heal dead worlds, extend civilizations across multiple dimensions, and solve resource scarcity permanently. We prefer cooperation to conquest. Consider this a learning opportunity. Every galaxy has apex predators. Now you know what yours looks like. The message transmitted across space at faster than light speed, reaching alien civilizations throughout the local galactic arm. Within hours, every major empire knew what had happened to the Vorthak fleet. On Earth, people continued their daily lives, unaware that their planet had just announced itself as the dominant military power in the galaxy. Children played in parks, while their hidden protectors reshaped interstellar politics. Adults worked in offices while humanity's weapons platforms emerged from hiding positions throughout known space. The secret was finally out. Humanity was no longer pretending to be primitive. And across the galaxy, alien civilizations began to understand why they had always felt like something was watching them from the darkness between stars. The Watchers had names and homeworld and the most terrifying military force the universe had ever seen. They were called humans. And now, everyone knew to be very, very careful around the third planet from a small yellow star.